Hello. So today I want to talk to you about 4 mistakes I see vegetarians make, or former vegetarians in some cases make, when they're being vegetarian that often leads them to go back to eating meat or fish. And I just want to briefly, before I get into those, share my own experience with becoming a vegetarian. I became vegetarian because 10 years ago, during a trip, a month-long trip to the jungle in the Amazon in Peru, doing a bunch of ayahuasca. Ayahuasca basically guided me to become vegetarian, and at the time, it wasn't something I was particularly looking forward to do. I really liked eating fish and chicken and things like this, but somehow that was the guidance, and it took me about 6 months to get there. And after 6 months, for the last 9.5 years, I really haven't looked back, and I've been vegetarian, and it's been overall a great experience for me. I've just noticed since I became vegetarian, my health has gone up. I was so sick at the time. I have so much more energy. My spiritual connection is deepened. My emotions have, my emotional health, my mental health, everything, spiritual, emotional, mental, physical, has improved. And of course, vegetarian diet is only one part of that. There's more to a holistic lifestyle than diet, but it's been certainly a supportive part in my journey, I feel. So the 4 mistakes I see people who are trying to be vegetarian but don't succeed in it, the 4 mistakes I see them make. The first is ignoring basic dietary needs. So if you are vegetarian and you just recently became vegetarian, or even a while ago became vegetarian, there's certain dietary needs that you still need to fulfill that are maybe a bit more easy to find in animal diets. And if you aren't aware what those are, you can easily be nutrient deficient in certain key things. So for instance, the most common is omega-3s, right? Omega-3s are of course best known to be in fish. And what I've seen is numerous people who have been vegetarian often go back to being pescatarians. If you're a vegetarian, there's pretty much 2 really good sources of omega-3 that I'm aware of. One is chia seed, the other is flaxseed. So if you're a vegetarian and you are not eating chia seed or flaxseed regularly, I personally like chia and eat a lot of chia, then you are very likely deficient in omega-3. And this is something that I don't hear talked about that much within at least circles I run in, but it's really important to have omega-3. Omega-3 is super important for brain health, mental health, brain clarity, skin health. It's just a really important fat to have. And so if you're not getting it, then your body's going to crave fish, and you're better off eating the fish than not getting it at all. But you can also get it through chia and flaxseed. There's other foods like spirulina, and some of these other foods that have it, but you have to eat very big amounts of it. Chia seed and flaxseed are the easiest too. And there's actually something that most people are not aware of, is that when you only eat vegetarian sources of omega-3, your body actually becomes better at converting the vegetarian sources of omega-3 to the type of omega-3 that's actually assimilable for your body, that your body can use for energy. So if you're going back and forth between pescatarian and vegetarian, you're actually inhibiting how well the vegetarian sources of omega-3 work. So the best thing to do is really to go full vegetarian and eat as much as you can of chia and flax, on a regular basis, chia or flax, depending on either one. So as you do that, then your body will actually utilize the omega-3 better, and your fish cravings very likely will disappear. So this is very closely linked to the second mistake I see people make. So the second mistake is that people misinterpret what their body's telling them. So the fish example would be one clear example of this. Another might be with animal protein, right? So if I was walking down the street when I used to live in Mexico, and the vast majority of the time when I passed these kebab shops, where the kebab smell of it would hit you so strongly in the face, and it'd be very palpable. Most of the time I was not really liking it. I haven't eaten meat in 9.5 years, and it wasn't something I really craved, to be honest, as I actually find it slightly repulsive to the idea of eating meat. And so that was my body's response most of the time. But once in a while, if I wasn't eating a lot of protein, all of a sudden I would smell this kebab coming from the sidewalk, and it'd be like, ooh, my body would actually respond completely differently. It would say, oh, I want, whatever that, whatever's causing that smell. What that's actually my body telling me is that I need more protein in my diet. Because as soon as I upped the amount of protein I had for 2 or 3 days, the next time I would pass one of those shops, that craving would not be there, and it would go back to how it normally was, which was like maybe a slight repulsion to the smell and not really enjoying it. So your body is actually trying to tell you that you need something in that food that has meat. It's not telling you that it needs the meat itself. So if you understand that it's something in the meat that your body needs, if you get that same need met from a vegetarian source, you do it by not taking on the anxiety of the animal, by practicing ahimsa, nonviolence, by as much as possible. Also, like, meats tend to be denser foods, and they also have lower levels of energy than most plant-based foods. There's a lot, and there's also more toxicity, more toxins within meat as well. So the best way is actually to do it maybe I can't say everyone should be vegetarian, but I think a much higher percentage of people can be than are, so that's why I'm making this video basically promoting vegetarianism. But if you are able to tune in and be like, okay, this is my body saying I'm deficient in something, let's see what that actually is, versus assuming it's the meat, then that's a way you can actually balance your diet and use your body's signals as a strength rather than like going back to eating meat or fish or whatever it may be. The third thing is being a junk food vegetarian. Like, if you become a vegetarian and you just go straight to all the processed foods with all the added sugars or all, the chemicals and the preservatives, those foods are not what our bodies were really made to eat. They're much lower level of energy, prana in the foods. A lot of the nutrients are often stripped away. So we really, holistic diet should be one based on whole natural foods. And the fourth of the mistakes I see people make is over-idealism. So within like veganism especially, there's like many kind of sub-diets which have quite in many cases, fanatical following. So there's like the raw vegan diet, then there's the fruitarians, there's even people who are trying to get rid of all food, and it's like this whole idea of like purity and eating more and more pure foods. And I'm not going to say that idealism is bad, because I actually see that I've met some people who have transcended what we would consider basic biological needs with food to a pretty highly amazing degree, at least in my opinion. I went on a breatharian retreat 5 years ago with this breatharian couple, Kai and Camilla. It changed my life in multiple ways. I wasn't looking to become breatharian. I'm still not breatharian, not particularly close to breatharian. But these breatharians, meaning they ate a little bit of food, or mostly juice. They didn't really eat food, but they had some juice. But they had much, much less than what we would consider possible. And she had 2 pregnancies like this. The babies came out above average weight. And they were just a radiant, light-filled couple. And they exuded so much joy and so much an abundance of energy, and just were very great giving people. And so there are a few beings out there, or maybe more than a few. There are people out there who have transcended what we would consider basic biological needs when it comes to food. But that's often a long process to be able to do that. And if we're like paying attention to what someone else is doing rather than tuning into our bodies, and really tuning into our deeper intuition about where we should be with their diet, then we could get, it's like we're trying to get to we're trying to get to step 35 and we're on step 12 or step 15, right? So it's like some level of fasting, obviously, and intermittent fasting certainly, and pushing your comfort zone with food can absolutely be a very beneficial thing. But like if you're trying to go on like a prolonged diet that's very restricted, like only fruits or only juice or something like this, and you're not ready to do that, then what will happen is your body will start to feel nutrient deficient, and you'll start to feel not as good as you can. And sometimes I've seen people do this, actually go back to eating meat. So this is another thing. It's like idealism, to some degree, I think is a beautiful thing, but you really have to tune in to your intuition to make sure that you're not trying to do something based off of an ideal that's not really grounded in something realistic for you in the moment. So those are the 4 mistakes I see people make who often struggle with vegetarianism, which, in just a really quick summary, number 1, being overly or excuse me, not being aware of dietary needs, like omega-3, vitamin B12, etc. Number 2 is not misinterpreting what your body's telling you, and assuming that if your body has a craving for meat, you automatically need meat to fulfill that need. Number 3 is basically junk food vegetarianism, eating crappy vegetarian foods. You're better off eating a wholesome diet. And number 4 would be, of course, over-idealism within the vegetarian and veganism world that's not fully integrated and not grounded in a person's present reality enough. So if you can be vegetarian and avoid those 4 things, I think maybe not everyone, but I think a vast number of people would benefit from that lifestyle, that diet, like I have. So that's why I felt sure to make this video. If you like this video, or you have your own experiences with vegetarianism, veganism, or any sort of diet you want to share, please feel free to comment. If you like this video, this channel is about holistic health, meaning spiritual health first, emotional health, mental, physical health, and about how we're all connected to a source of infinite love, which was an experience I got initially graced by 10 years ago, and has been a guiding light for me in my life. So I hope that you subscribe and tune in to future videos. Until then, have a beautiful morning, afternoon, evening, or night, depending on when you're watching this. Blessings.